Hi there, it's Dr. Syra and I'm back for Ask Dr. Syra, which is our video series where I answer your questions about personal development, spiritual growth, relationships, psychology, any of those things that I usually talk about. So today's question comes from Layla. And the question is, how do you navigate a relationship where both individuals are very hard-headed and stubborn? Very good question. So I'll tell you, in my own life, there's several relationships like that. Whether it's a relationship with a parent or a colleague or a partner, there are times when both of us are going to be hard-headed. But then there's the people who that's just their personality, right? They're just always kind of hard-headed. They don't really make space for other people's opinions. And so what do you do when you're in that kind of a relationship? Well, whoever's asking the question, so Layla, if you're asking the question, I would say that part of the job is whoever notices the rupture, whoever notices the problem in the relationship, that's the person who's meant to do something about it, right? So if you're the one who's like, oh my gosh, we're never getting anywhere, this is so frustrating, well then you're the one called to do something about it. Now, what would you do? Well, there's a phrase that one of my teachers told me. It's called standing in the fire. And so that's where you, say, for example, let's talk about intimate partnership, okay? So you and your partner, say you're having an argument, and they're not losing, like they're not going to give up their position, you're not going to give up your position, and you're both kind of like at it. So at some point, if one person just decides to stand in the fire, so they just decide to say, you know what, I'm not going to make this personal, I'm not going to hit back. I'm just going to stand here and feel the burning, right? Standing in the sacred fire. Another way of thinking about it is, it's kind of like emotional baseball. So if someone's throwing a baseball at you, you have three choices. You could catch it, you could let it hit you, or you could hit it back, right? And so when we let it hit us, that is kind of when we get hurt, and then we tell people like, look at this bruise and they hurt me and we had this problem and they're so wrong and awful. That's one way of responding. Another way is like, oh yeah, you think you're gonna so you take out your bat and you hit it back and like, well, if they're gonna do that to me, I'm not gonna put up with this. No one talks to me like that, and you just hit back. Another way is to just catch it, right? If the person who's interacting with you is somebody who generally cares about you, and okay, I'm going to pause myself there for a moment. I'm not talking about verbal abuse or physical abuse, okay? That's a different category of things. Here we're talking about where there's generally a healthy relationship, but there's conflict. So verbal abuse, psychological, physical abuse, that's where you need kind of, it helps to have professional intervention to teach both people skills and tools so that they can have a healthier relationship. So let's put that aside. Again, we're talking back about the baseball. So in the situation where both of you are okay, you're generally fine, but there's these conflicts that happen, if you're able to catch it. So the idea is that you just, like, they say whatever they say, and then you just, like, you hear it, and you actually consider it, and then you put it away. And then, and then you put it away. And then after everything is over, after the fight, after the tempest and the storm, you'll look at those baseballs and you'll say, what was that about? Because there often is some truth to whatever that person's saying. And it might not be pretty. It might not be something you want to hear. I'll tell you an example from my own life. So my husband and I were at the airport about to go on a trip, and we were talking, I was going back and forth, and then at one point he said to me, you always make it about you. And that shattered. We're going on this great holiday and you just said this thing. And for a while I was like really hurt, and it really, like, the baseball hit me, right? But after some time, as I was on the plane, I was considering, I was going back through the last few weeks in that time together, and I realized I had really made it about myself. Like, there wasn't really space for him in any way. Like, it wasn't about what he needed, what he wanted, what he was doing. I was very, very self-absorbed during that period. And so, though it really hurt to hear that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm a therapist, my whole life is about helping people, I can't even help my husband, I was like going through, spinning out, right? But then I caught myself, and then I stopped. And it's only when we stop and we actually look at, okay, wait a minute, yes, he said this thing, it might have hurt me, but perhaps there's something to it. So that's one. Okay, so then that's a situation where the person's actually angry, they say something, and there's truth to it. There's another side. The question was about where both people are hard-headed and stubborn. And so what can happen is when we're in that fight, that argument, our brain can actually click into fight or flight mode. So for thousands of years, we've evolved to scan for danger, right? To scan for tigers. Where's the tiger? Where's the tiger? There's no tigers for most of us, physical tigers, but our brain is still designed to scan. And so now we'll start interpreting other things like a tone of voice or a facial expression or a certain way of looking at you as a tiger. And so in an argument, a verbal argument, that's the fight mode, right? That's where it's like, and all you want to do is attack, or all you want to do is protect yourself. And so in that moment, not much useful information is going to come out, right? So when my husband said that thing to me, he wasn't all riled up. He was just stating something very matter-of-factly that, hey, this is what's going on. When both people are very riled up, that's not the best time to actually take seriously what the other person's saying. When both people are riled up, it's about, what do I need to do to get to regulate myself so that I can actually be here and listen to this other person? Because especially in long-term relationships, whether it's intimate partnerships, parent-child relationships, sibling relationships, you're in it for the long haul, like you've invested, right? And so wouldn't it be helpful to have some tools to actually have kind of a relationship that feels like it's a little bit more healthy? So those are my thoughts for this question, is notice whether you're in that kind of totally irrational fight or flight space. Notice if you're not, and when you're not, that's the time to have the conversation. So usually it's after 8 p.m. Do not try to have a fight. It's just not going to work because nobody's listening. So those are my thoughts for the day. Please send me a comment below to let me know about your conflict. How do you manage that conflict in your own relationship? See you soon. Oh, before I go, it's your life and only you can live it.